who's as adamant about his or her position as I am about mine, whom you think is sharp. Seriously, we know that. And another thing, we heard him say that, hey, El Dorados, Larry Elder here, and welcome to another edition of And Another Thing, edition number 29. I urge all of you to go to LarryElder.com, sign up, become an El Dorado. You'll be able to get a copy of Michael and Me, which is a feature-length documentary, a pro-Second Amendment documentary. We actually ambushed the director, Michael Moore, and I asked him 3 times how many Americans use guns every year to defend themselves. And 3 times he gave an answer that was, in my opinion, non-responsive, but you be the judge. Get Michael and Me, LarryElder.com. Now for today's show. Excuse me. I want to talk about something that happened on what I call MSNBC Hee-Haw. That's MSNBC, the so-called news talk network owned by NBC. They've got a new host named Chris Hayes. He's about 7 years old. I'm joking. I expect he's about 25 or 30 years old. And he took over from Ed Schultz's show. Ed Schultz is the in-your-face lefty who had a show for a while. For a while, Ed used to invite me on his show. And then all of a sudden he stopped, and the show became, as is the case with almost all the shows that I've seen on MSNBC Hee-Haw, a bunch of people agreeing with other people. Say what you will about Fox. They have Bob Beckel, they have Alan Combs, they have dissenting points of view. They often have debates they call fair and balanced, where they have somebody who feels one way and somebody who feels another way. And Pew Research did a poll. And they looked at CNN and Fox and MSNBC Hee-Haw. Pew Research Poll looked at CNN, Fox, and MSNBC, and guess what? 89% of the fare on MSNBC was opinion. The rest of it was news. Over at CNN, about 35% of the fare was opinion. About 45% was news. Excuse me. And over at Fox, it was reversed. About 45% opinion, about 35% news. The rest of it, you really couldn't figure it out. So CNN and Fox were not that far in terms of news and opinion content, but MSNBC Hee-Haw was off the chart. Almost all of it was opinion. The reason I mention that is so many people on the left liken MSNBC to Fox. They say it's okay, it's the mirror opposite of Fox. Fox is hard left, Fox is hard right, MSNBC is hard left. Nothing could be further from the truth. Fox is far more news-oriented than MSNBC ever was, which brings us back to Mr. Chris Hayes. He was doing a rant on the 50th anniversary. Don't ask me why this is important to remember. The 50th anniversary of Governor George Wallace of Alabama standing in front of a school going, segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. Those of you who are of a certain age might remember that. And as he was speaking, there was a graphic underneath it, and it said George Wallace was a Republican. George Wallace was a Democrat. Almost all of those redneck racist politicians in the South during the so-called modern civil rights movement, they were all Democrats. Whether Orville Faubus, the governor of Little Rock, remember Little Rock, where Eisenhower had to send in troops because he wouldn't allow the school to integrate? He was a Democrat. Lester Maddox, the Mississippi governor who handed out axe handles to his restaurant patrons so they could beat up black people in his restaurant, he was a Democrat. Ross Barnett, Democrat. George Wallace, Democrat. And it's amazing to me how the Democrats have been able to, pardon the expression, whitewash their history and convince people that Abraham Lincoln was a Democrat and George Wallace was a Republican. You look at the history of the Democratic Party and it stinks. They opposed the 13th Amendment that freed the slaves, the 14th Amendment that made slaves new citizens. They opposed the 15th Amendment that, at least on paper, allowed blacks to vote. As a percentage of the party, more Republicans voted for the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 than did Democrats. The Klan was founded by members of the Democratic Party. I didn't say the Democratic Party founded the Klan, but the Klan was founded by members of the Democratic Party. In fact, the Klan used to be called the terrorist wing of the Democratic Party. But most people have no blooming idea about the skanky history of the Democratic Party, and they believe the Democratic Party has always been the party of the white hat and the Republican Party the party of the black hat, when in fact, historically, it's been the reverse. And one of the problems having people who don't have any experience on these talk shows is that they make these kinds of mistakes. I'm sure this kid, Chris Hayes, had no blooming idea that Wallace is really a Democrat because he doesn't remember and doesn't read, and people like that don't know their history, don't want to know the history. They want to have a caricature of the Republican Party as racist, as homophobic, as anti-civil rights, when in fact the opposite is the case. Now for a few of your questions. Thank you, sir. May I have a little swig here? A little imbibement, is that a word? Amanda is from Pomona, California. Back in 2008, when then Senator Barack Obama campaigned on a platform of transparency in government, oh, I remember it well, which is why I voted for him back then. Really? Within the last couple of months, with all the non-transparent things going on, I really regret my vote. Now I feel like a fool. I can no longer associate myself with the Democratic Party. What is the person to do? Well, let's go over why you voted for him, Amanda. You voted for him because he promised to be transparent. Apparently you were not bothered by Obamacare, not bothered by raising taxes, not bothered by $1 billion stimulus package that many free market economists felt would not only not improve the economy, but make the economy worse. I hope you enjoyed this small excerpt. If you want to see the full video, got to be in El Dorado. Go to my website, larryelder.com, log in, fill out the form. It'll cost you about $4.75 a month, or about the price of a mocha frappuccino latte at your favorite coffee house. As you can tell, I don't like coffee. I'm a tea drinker. See you next time.